maybe there's still a little bit of grip left, but you got to be careful. You chase clean track too far, and you're going to be right in the fence.
Hey, Brian, do you have to change your driving style as far as where you let off the throttle, get back on the throttle, and going up top?
Yeah, you really do. I think you have to change the way you drive the car a lot, and you really have to adapt to the car as well. And you have to pace yourself. You have to be very cautious. It's like racing at Darlington every lap. As that car starts to give up grip, if the tires start to go away, you have to know that. And if you go in there just a little bit too hard, you don't get a little tight or get a little loose, you'll hit the wall. And and that's the key to running up top, is being able to make those minor adjustments as the race goes on and as the tires wear.
Brian Vickers, former NASCAR Nationwide Series champion, joining us in the pit studio as we watch the 32 car run at the moment in 9th position. Out in front, Brad Keselowski, the only driver currently running in the top 5 without a Nationwide Series win in Charlotte. He is the series championship leader. You're watching ESPN on ABC. And the Texas Rangers head north to take on the Minnesota Twins on ESPN2 Sunday Night Baseball at 8 Eastern. Then on Tuesday night at 7 Eastern, it's Ryan Howard and the Phillies facing their National League East rivals, the Atlanta Braves, on ESPN. Major League Baseball, ESPN and ESPN3.com, Sunday and Tuesday. And here at Charlotte Motor Speedway, riding along with a young man who started on the outside of the front row, Trevor Bayne. And Dave, he's slipped all the way back to 14th.
Well, the biggest word that he's used to describe that race car is N-U-M-B, numb, and that means it will not turn. And so while everyone was moving forward, he was moving backward, hoping for a caution flag and a pit stop here early on. Now, the last caution flag was brought out, unfortunately, by a multi-car incident involving Brian Scott. Brian's with us now. And Brian, it looked like some sort of a slow restart. What was going on with your car?
Well, during practice, we had a transmission problem. Some of the transmission bolts were left loose. They worked themselves out, and I felt something when I pulled out on the racetrack during practice, and the transmission was moving around. Came in, they figured out the bolts came loose, they put new bolts in, but unfortunately in NASCAR you have to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that you have a problem with your motor or transmission or something significant. You can't just change something, and it was questionable. I felt pretty uneasy about the transmission, but we couldn't prove it that it had done any damage because we ran after that. And, when you run things as hard as you run here in NASCAR, you're going to test the breaking points of things. And unfortunately, we found the breaking point in our Levine Children's Hospital Toyota today. And we had a really fast car, and I was really looking forward and really excited to represent the kids in the hospital. And I hate that this happened, but, unfortunately, mistakes can ruin your day.
Tough day for Brian Scott, Alan.
Yeah, Brian, part of a whole parade to the garage in the early laps, all but 2 of them. Because of the accidents we had in the first 7 laps of this race. 2 wrecks. You've got Danny O'Quinn, Dennis Setzer, Brian Scott, Ricky Stenhouse Jr., David Gilliland, Josh Wise, Steve Arpin, Mark Green, and Mike Wallace, all in the garage, and all but 2 of them because of the 2 wrecks.
I guess they heard how difficult this track was in the daylight. They said, we don't want to be a part of that.
Watching Jamie McMurray running here back in 12th position. Mike?
And Alan, talking with his crew chief, Tony Uri Sr., before the race, he told me the biggest challenge today, keeping the car turning, and that's exactly what they're experiencing so far. McMurray saying he can really charge the entry, but starts the push in the middle of the turn. Shannon?
Guys, Jason Leffler had a terrible qualifying effort. He qualified 40th, but I spoke with him today. He told me that the car was good. They just had a really bad lap. This team is looking to get back on track. They've had 2 very solid weeks, top 5 finishes in the last 2 races. Leffler told me he definitely thinks he can battle back in the top 5 at points this season. Guys?
Man, he's gained 28 spots since the start of the race.
Now, Leffler is a teammate to Brian Scott, and they were talking about some transmission worries on that 10 car, so that'd be something to keep an eye on as this day goes on. We've been watching leader Brad Keselowski here, trying to get around some of these cars. He's trying to put a lap down. And the best words I could describe were coming out of my mouth while you were listening to Shannon were, ooh, ooh, ooh.
Careful.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can see a lot of cars really struggling, and you get in a situation like this. Brad's doing a great job right here of just being patient and not trying to push the issue. He doesn't want to make these guys make a mistake right in front of him and kind of take him out then.
Yeah, you see on the right side of the screen, Greg Biffle goes by Ryan Newman. Ryan slipping back a little.
See Casey Kane here.
Yeah, as while Keselowski was going through that traffic and we were covering some of these other stories, Casey Kane got up into 2nd place around Carl Edwards, and in this lap traffic has erased a 2.5-second deficit to that 22 car.
Yeah, Brad's been careful trying to get by these lap cars. You know, Casey's car's been fast too, though, and this is his opportunity to make up a little ground.
Heard the story on NASCAR Countdown of Casey's visit to Fort Hood in Texas and racing for the Soldiers this weekend here in Charlotte and again at Daytona, 4th of July weekend. Champion Brian Vickers of this series in 2003 with us down in the pit studio. And Brian, you were probably doing the same thing I was doing watching that traffic, saying, careful, careful.
I was. You know, Brad did a good job working his way through there. You see the negative of that situation where he lost a lot of ground that he had on second place, but you've got to be careful. You know, you get in a situation like that, you get impatient, and mistakes can be made very easily, especially in lap traffic, because they're going to lap down for a reason. Your cars are not handling well, and if you put them in a bad position, you're going to be in a bad position.
And you see Justin Allgaier right here passing Kyle Busch. Now, Justin's got a good car, but Kyle's he's struggling a little bit in this run.
Yeah. Anytime you can be passing Kyle Busch, though, it's a good thing. You got to know that you're somewhere close from. But really impressed with Justin Allgaier and this race team. This car is really moving forward. Looks like it's hooked up. And I've seen him run the bottom and the top.
That's 5th, 6th, and 7th you're looking at right there. Now back to that lap traffic thing just a minute. Brian and DJ, what are you expecting the lap car to do? What lane are you expecting him to give you?
Well, I mean, they tell the lap cars as you're approaching to go to the inside and give you room to the outside. That's not always the case, though, Brian. You have to kind of pay attention ahead and see what their car's doing. A lot of times they're not handling well because they're sliding up the racetrack.
Yeah, you really do. I think a lot of it is just looking ahead, looking down the racetrack, seeing what kind of line they prefer, and hopefully making sure your car can work around that line. One thing that I've done with my spotter before is he's really good about kind of watching farther ahead and keeping an eye on the lap cars, seeing which way they prefer, which lane they prefer to give up to the leaders. So that way when you get to him, he has a better idea. He relays that information and you make the most of it.
See Joey Logano wrestling with some of that traffic, trying to get through as well. Logano running in 4th spot in the 20 car. Meanwhile, up front, it is Brad Keselowski. In the 22, he took the lead at lap 16. We're at lap number 40 now. We're back after this message and a word from our ABC stations. It is the TechNet Auto Service 300 powered by CarQuest for the NASCAR Nationwide Series. Charlotte Motor Speedway on a nice and sunny Memorial Weekend afternoon. After kind of shaky weather forecasts all week, Mother Nature has very much cooperated, and Brad Keselowski is enjoying the conditions more than anyone. He's opened up again a 1-second lead. Look at this race for 3rd spot.
Look at this. This is what I love about daytime racing. Look at this big run that Biff gets on the top. Wow. Passed them both.
5th to 3rd, no problem.
You can see how that move right there just powers you down the straightaway, too.
I'm not believing that. Look, he pulled those guys 6 car lengths down that straightaway.
So Greg Biffle to 3rd, Justin Allgaier through Joey Logano to 4th. Logano in the 20 back to 5th. And off of turn 4, Kyle Busch slowing. Now we're coming up on what would be green flag pit stops, but this certainly would have to be early, wouldn't it?
A little bit early, but like I say, he's struggling a little bit, needs to get that car adjusted.
Dave, what do you got?
Alan, 7 laps ago, Kyle came on the radio and said, right front feels funny. That's when the crew leapt to attention, thought he might come in right then, but he stayed out for another 6 laps, and then he brought the 18 car in. It has been tight. It has been possibly abusing that right front tire, and Kyle felt like they needed to come in. They pull a spring rubber from the left rear, try to make that car turn better.
Yeah, they need to get that thing adjusted, and like I say, that's the good thing about having a veteran driver like Kyle Busch. He said, hey, I don't like what we've got. We need to fix it.
And you're Jason Ratcliffe, his crew chief. Kyle says,
hey, you bring it right now.
Yeah, there you go. So now let's just set the perspective for Kyle Busch. He just needs this thing to run green till everybody else pits, and then he's right back in the hunt.
Yeah, they took a little extra time on a green flag stop to get that rubber out of there, so they must have had a real problem, a little bit more to take, probably just a second and a half, 2 seconds more.
We'll check on where Kyle falls back into the scoring line here in just a minute while we watch. Oh, no. Kyle Busch. Now it doesn't work in his favor.
No, this is not good.
Too fast exiting. Kyle Busch will have to do a pass-through penalty on pit road.
Yeah, it was one thing to make an early green flag stop, but to get a penalty now, this will be a lot harder to dig your way out of. Although if they had to have somebody that could do it, it would be Kyle Busch and this team, but it's not what they are looking for.
What NASCAR is telling us is that in the second to last segment on pit road, He was timed at 50.44 miles per hour
Oh, that's just
electronically.
barely over.
You're only allowed 50 miles an hour, so he'll be coming in to do a pass-through penalty in just a minute. So